Sir, can we start the program, sir? Now 10:30.
With the permission of the Honorable Director, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, you should start now.
Welcome, participants. Let us have a silent prayer for a moment. Thank you all. Indian Institute of Information Technology, Kalyani, West Bengal, has been set up by Government of India, Ministry of Education, Government of West Bengal, and industry partners on a not-for-profit public-private partnership. This institute has been attributed the status of Institute of National Importance by the Cabinet in March 2017. The year 2019-20 was exciting, full of challenges and revival like everyone else. And it is continued till. Some days were an endless stream of emergencies that came unannounced. Everyone allows learning, ask questions, reflects, and introspect. As we prepare for the year, we welcome new questions and new problems, of course, new solutions and new heights. Moreover, when we do it, we remember that on each blade of grass sits an angel who still says, grows, grows. More about the education sector development and a few other points. Finally, we know that we have become stronger and intelligent. The happiness and satisfaction of faculty, students, and management show that everything is good, or almost everything is good. Thanks a lot for always trust and support each other. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends of science, technology, and innovation. I am pleased to welcome you to the National Webinar on National Education Policy, NEP 2020 Action. This is an important agenda, but also a vast one, and the time available to us is very limited. I find immense pleasure in welcoming our Honorable Chief Guest, Professor P.B. Sarma Sir, Founder Vice Chancellor of Delhi Technological University and Rajiv Gandhi Technological University, Madhya Pradesh. Former Professor IIT Delhi and Vice Chancellor Amity University, Gorakhpur, who is my role model in implementing standard operating procedures leading to accreditation as well as research, and the man who gives the energy, motivation always to everybody. Sir, welcome you. I furthermore like to express my gratitude to our director for his efforts to enable this national webinar to be held at the national level and to contact and promote other colleges and universities to take part. Welcome, sir. I formally welcome my dear colleagues to this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that by participating in this webinar, we are in the right place and at the right time. Together, let us accelerate the learning and gaining of knowledge, exchanges of ideas, and scaling up of good practices in line with NEP, specifically our chief guest, Professor P.B. Sarma's in line. I am confident that we will find the concepts in depth, ideas, wayouts, and future scopes for our education sector in today's participation. I am extremely welcoming the participants, that too the big people, big shots in the education industry of our country, like Dr. Surappa Pandey and other eminence also joined with us. I wish you all a very successful webinar. Thank you. Welcome to each and every one of you for being here with us today. We are very pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with us for a long time. Thank you all. I request our director, Santanu sir, to give the presidential address. Thank you. Over to director sir.
So very warm welcome to this webinar on this NEP 2020 Vision to Action. So as we all know, NEP, this document, the new education policy, that document that has been framed, a good number of people over a good amount of time, they did a lot of brainstorming and then came up with this set of policies that should be followed by the Indian academic section, so that our next generation people that we get, they are equipped enough to take up the challenges that are coming in the new world that we are going to. And the situation has been complicated further with the occurrence of this COVID pandemic and all. So challenges have become even more than that. So if we look into today's talk, so it talks about innovation. And what I believe myself, and maybe many of you will agree with me, that innovation is the key challenge. Without innovation, if we just study a subject or 10 subjects, get good grades in that, so the students are always doing that, but that is not going to lead to anything very great. That is not going to help the nation in a big way. What is required is that we acquire knowledge, but we are able to apply those knowledge on a similar field or maybe an altogether different field. What I personally believe is nature is actually the whole thing that we have. And we have divided the nature into several parts. Somebody looking it from the angle of arts, somebody looking from science, and again science has been divided into basic science and applications like engineering, and further engineering has been divided into so many branches. Okay, now since I am from engineering background, so I take it to that side. But there is no difference as such. So ultimately, if you want to solve a problem, so you have to have a holistic view of that, and that holistic view requires the capability that we have got experience in many of the fields, which is difficult to be mastered in a number of fields. Is difficult. Maybe one can be mastered in one or two. So what is the requirement of the day is that we believe on teamwork. We have very good team with experts in different fields, and people should be able to take decision at a highest level. We should be able to take decision like what should be the appropriate avenue for solving a particular part of a problem, and that decision is challenging. So if you do not take me otherwise, I would like to say that now we need jacks of all trades rather than masters of some of them. So this is very much important today. And innovation is something where we apply the knowledge of one domain to another domain. So that's what I have said. But for that, we have to inculcate the behavior, inculcate the thinking process within our students. And definitely, when I say students, I also take myself as a student, because all of us are lifelong learners. In this process, I must have knowledge, but I should have a dream. I should have some imagination, and then the knowledge will help me to perhaps achieve those things. But we should be dreaming a lot. We should be dreaming about future. We should be dreaming about what we expect to happen tomorrow, or maybe after 10 years, maybe after 100 years. Okay, and imagination. So whatever maybe it appears to be very vague initially, but many of the innovations that have come that way only. If you look into computer science, you know that this Boolean algebra, when it came, people thought, so this is a branch of mathematics where people are just wasting their time in doing those funny things. But today we see that Boolean algebra, it has become so important. Okay, so now people are understanding, people have understood when these computers came into existence. So this is the way things are happening. So the people who thought about Boolean algebra, so that is an innovation, but where is the application? Okay, so application came much later. So we should be able to dream, we should be able to imagine, we should be able to foresee like how this can be taken forward. And it is the responsibility of academicians like us to encourage those type of arbitrary thinking capabilities of the students and inculcate that behavior within them. Today we have with us Professor Sharma, so who will be having a very good lecture on this. We all of us will be benefited by that. So with my small views, so I will also I'm also eagerly waiting to listen to Professor Sharma. So I hand over to our Deputy Registrar, so he will carry forward the session. And again, welcome to all of you now virtually. And when the situation becomes normal, I welcome all of you to come to Kalyani sometime and share, stay here for some time, share your experience with Kalyani. Okay, so very welcome to the place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Sir, for your presidential address. Let me give the introduction of our chief guest of the day, Professor Sharma sir. Give me a moment. Right. Professor P.B. Sharma, current Vice Chancellor, Amity University, Gorakhpur, and founder Vice Chancellor, Delhi Technological University, DTU, and past President, Association of Indian Universities in the year of 2017-18. A reputed academician, Professor P.B. Sharma, currently the Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Gorakhpur, has been the founder Vice Chancellor of Delhi Technological University, DTU, and Rajiv Gandhi Technological University, RGPV. Professor Sharma is a former professor of IIT Delhi and former president of Engineering Sciences Division of Indian Science Congress. A doctorate from University of Birmingham, UK, Professor Sharma, during his professional career spanning over 51 years, has made distinguished contribution to the advancement of frontiers of knowledge in the areas of mechanical engineering, gas turbine technology, nanoscience and technology, new energy and environment technologies, knowledge and innovation management. As founder Vice Chancellor of RGPV, Professor Sharma has made distinguished contributions to academic innovations and R&D at RGPV. It was Professor Sharma's vision for innovatively designed RGPV campus that has now blossomed into campus gravitating with strong industry partnership and focus on industry and society relevant research and development. It was Professor Sharma's inspirational leadership that Amity University Institute of Pharmacy made new strides into herbal drug technology and fostered innovations in plenty. During his long association with DCE DTU, lasting for nearly 25 years, Professor Sharma has made a highly distinguished contribution to academic research and administration of this prestigious institution. He was the master visionary of the innovatively designed new campus of DCE, and as to his credit, the rise of DCE and DTU to high global esteem in frontal areas of research and development and innovations. Recipient of many awards and recognitions, Professor Sharma has been conferred with the honorary degree of Doctor of Engineering by his alma mater, University of Birmingham, in July 2013. Professor Sharma has also been conferred with the honorary degree of Doctor of Science by Dr. K.N. Modi University in October 2019. Still, he is executing exemplary works in his career, in his place. We are all listening, we are all waiting to listen his sparking ideas towards the accelerating interdisciplinary research and innovation in the institutions of higher learning and universities. Sharma sir, the platform is for you. We are waiting for you. Over to Sharma sir.
Thank you, Dr. Gurgunathan, and thank you, Honorable Director, Dr. Shantanu Chattopadhyay ji, distinguished members of the faculty of IIIT Kalyani, heads of the institutions, members of the faculty from institutions around the country, my very dear research scholars, students, ladies and gentlemen. Let me at the outset express my profound happiness and personal gratitude to the Honorable Director of IIIT Kalyani and to Dr. Muruganathan, my very dear friend, for giving me this opportunity to be with you today at this very important moment when we are looking at NEP, National Education Policy 2020, how to take it from the vision to action. This is perhaps for the first time in the history of India where the focus of the policy is not merely on envisioning a better tomorrow, but also to focus our attention to what can be done now to create that bright future that lies ahead for the community of not only people in India, but the world at large. And therefore, I think it's a great opportunity for each one of us now to understand what the new education policy has to offer to create that brighter future, which we call the new India in the making for each one of us, and to put in our very best effort in the direction of implementing programs and actions and activities in our respective institutions and universities so that the dream of the founding fathers of this great nation could be fulfilled along the directions of a highly developed India, a double India inhabited by law-abiding citizenship, India of people who would have a strong faith in respect for all religions, in harmony of different cultures, who would understand the value and worth of celebrating diversity as our forefathers have done, and they would discover the oneness of diversity and will also understand the profound meaning of diversity of oneness. And it is that kind of charter which the NEP 2020 presents before us to create a blissful world in which we all will have a purposeful engagement throughout our life to realize our immense potential which we have and to innovate and excel in our chosen areas of expertise and knowledge so that the tomorrow that we create is 1,000 times more brighter than the world in which we live today. Whether you know it or not, the very purpose of education, in my view, ladies and gentlemen, is to create a world better than the world that is handed over to us by our forefathers. And it is from this point of view, it's very, very important for us to realize that we go around and understand the implications of the new education policy from the point of view of creating that beautiful world around us in a manner that we are in a position to create this beautiful world. And that is why when I was invited by the Triple IT Kalyani, I thought it fit and fine at this stage to speak to you about accelerating interdisciplinary research and innovations in institutions of higher learning and the universities in India and around the world, if we can really put our eyes and dots and our mind on a topic so important. I thought it important at this point itself to remind to you what the great soul uh, of Dr. Abdul Kalam, the People's President of India, has said. Just trying to fix up my computer for a minute. Just a minute. Can you? There you are. Yeah, I can see now. Okay, so I go here. My message, especially to young people, is to have courage to think. Dr. Kalam has said, have courage to think differently, courage to invent, to travel the unexpected path, courage to discover the impossible, and to conquer the problems and succeed. These are great qualities that you all must work towards. This message of Bharat Ratna Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the former President of India, one of the most distinguished scientists and technologists our nation has produced, holds a very important agenda today when we are looking at translating NEP 2020 from vision to action. This is absolutely important for us to understand that we all must have the courage to think differently, courage to invent, courage to travel the unexpected path, courage to discover the impossible and conquer the problems and succeed. Had Dr. Kalam been there today when we are facing one of the most deadliest pandemic in the history of the mankind, he would have worked day and night to encourage each one of us to conquer this deadly virus and also to ensure that we invent and invent with a speed not only the vaccines, but the systems by which we are in a position to say that no future viruses would ever cripple the mankind as this one has done. It is this kind of courage to discover the impossible and to conquer the problems and succeed is what is called for from peoples like you, me, my members of the faculty, and each one of you who come to the universities and institutions of higher learning. And therefore, it's very, very important for us also to realize that in the educational context, in the context of the university, what the great souls of people like Dr. Radhakrishnan, the former president of AIU, who had also been the former president of India and former vice chancellor of Banaras Hindu University, has said, this great teacher of our great nation has said that the end product of education should be a free, creative man who can battle against historical circumstances and adversaries of nature. For this, universities should attract the best minds for its teaching faculty. The message is loud and clear that ultimately to succeed in creating the bright future for the mankind, you require to attract the very best creative, enterprising intellectuals who should join, in fact, the teaching faculty in our universities and institutions of higher learning. And it is this message of Dr. Radhakrishnan holds a very important agenda now that we have triple IITs, we have new IITs, and we have great many new universities and institutions, both in the public and private sector, who are working towards strengthening the hands and resolves of the government of India to create that bright future for a nation like ours. Let me also tell you that His Holiness Dalai Lama, who a couple of months ago was invited by our university to share his thoughts on modern education and how it is and what should be done. We also invited His Holiness Dalai Lama Ji to address the annual general body meeting of the vice chancellors. During the days I was the president of AIU, and we invited him at Sarnath to share his thoughts on what is that which is missing in our education system, which we need to now take care of. He said, modern education is highly developed, but it is not sufficient by itself to reduce violence and bring about peace. What I believe can help is if we incorporate into modern education the ancient Indian understanding of the working of mind and emotions, we shall need to adopt a sense of emotional hygiene. The message was loud and clear that knowledge alone is not the sufficient condition to create a peaceful and blissful world. We need to integrate the dimensions of ethics, professional morality, and universal values into the education to serve the cause of making education a vehicle for transformation of the society and the nations around the world. You look at what the former chairman of Intel Corporation has said in respect of investment in education. Investing in education and providing 21st century skills for students are fundamental components to nations' continued growth and prosperity. Investment in education, my friend, is investment in creating a brighter future for the mankind. And it is this investment, in my opinion, as well as investment in the healthcare, is of paramount importance. And I'm indeed very happy that the government of India has committed itself to making 6% of GDP investment in our education. If we can do that, then I'm pretty sure the great days are ahead. The investment in education must be translated into the capabilities of the people, into the mindset of people, into their attitude to give back to the society what they have received in the institutions of higher learning and the universities around the world, and also then engage relentlessly in pursuit of translating their knowledge, their wisdom into concrete actions that ultimately create the blissful world around. And it is this charter, in my opinion, is very, very important. Investment in education must result into creating men and women of competence and caliber, but also of character and integrity, of professional morality and ethics of the kind which the transparent world today requires, as we have taken a deep plunge to enter into the world of digital India in our own country. Digitization creates tremendous amount of compulsion to remain on the side of the good It creates compulsion to remain on the side of personal integrity. It creates compulsions to ensure that you work in an environment where you are visible and everything is transparent and recorded. This particular webinar is being recorded. It will remain as a testimony of who attended it, who said what, who asked what questions, and what replies were made, what thoughts were shared. And this is exactly the context in which the digital identity of each one of us now holds a very, very important promise for each one of us to remain on the side of the good. Transparency, trust, and talent, therefore, become the currencies in this 21st century. And investment in education is going to create that kind of blissful world in which technology create transparency, transparency create trust, and trust, transparency, and technology together go along with the people of letters who create the world of wisdom and world of bliss which we also desire. We are meeting at a highly opportune time, ladies and gentlemen, when the landscape of higher education is on the verge of undergoing major rejuvenation and revitalization. I need not overemphasize that the National Education Policy, NEP 2020, as you all would know, has presented before the nation a vision and a roadmap for rejuvenating, revitalizing, and also radically reforming the framework of education from schools to the university level. Triple ITs and IITs are included in this transformation and revitalization and radical reformation of education. COVID-19 was not a reality when NEP 2020 was chartered. So now additional dimensions and new challenges have been further added. How do we go about now translating the vision of NEP 2020 and the roadmap of rejuvenating, revitalizing, and radically reforming the framework of education now that we have understood that the road ahead is not as smooth as it was envisioned to be earlier. We have already entered into the age of uncertainty, and we are passing through highly testing times in our universities and institutions of higher learning, as well as education at all levels, from schools to colleges and universities, not only here in our own country, but in the high and mighty, strong countries of the world over. And therefore, we must now take cognizance of what NEP 2020 has given us as a charter. The thrust of NEP is on creating a vibrant education system in line with the national and global aspirations of the 21st century knowledge society. The focus of NEP is on restating with conviction our ancient ethos of integration of education with human values. I am saying this and I'm saying this that we need to restate with conviction, not just because NEP has asked us to do so, because with our conviction, we must integrate the universal values of truthfulness, humility, simplicity, care and concern for environment, and also ensuring that the nobility of man earns him the vital esteem during his own lifetime and beyond. These universal values, which were coined in phrases like Satyamev Jayate Nanratam, Mansa Sadasuchi, keeping your purity of mind all along up to the last breath, serving the society with the utmost devotion and unconditional commitment, for Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Shantu Niramaya, creating a blissful world in your own motherland. Janani Janmabhuma Swargadapi Kariyashi, not only just making Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina as a wishful thinking only in prayers, but translating this into the reality in one's own lifetime by one's actions and deeds, so that the world in which you live and the world which you leave behind, in fact, is a world which you would be proud of. Creating a student-centric environment is absolutely essential today. Earlier, people like me and you were going on in the classrooms and delivering sermons, hoping that everybody will take us seriously and will note down everything uttered by us. But today we are in a different world where we would be educating the highly inspired minds of learners who are empowered with tremendous amount of information and knowledge which they themselves have gathered by their appetite of self-learning using the modern day technology. And therefore, educating the highly inspired and empowered mind would be a great challenge. And the new education policy invites us to create a student-centric environment in which we ensure that the potential of learning, the appetite of learning, and in fact his attributes and commitment to learning becomes so important in the years to come. Facilitating greater avenues for learning outside the classroom therefore becomes very, very important. The thrust of the education policy is on creating a student-centric learning environment both within the classroom as well as outside the classroom. Trust on integrating industry and society for the holistic development of students is another very important focus of the new education policy. The new education policy has also laid a great emphasis on fostering a multidisciplinary learning and research environment to create 21st century learning profiles and skill sets akin to producing future ready professionals. Professionals who would meet the challenges not only of today as the industry demand, but also meet the challenges of future which are yet to come. Likewise, the thrust of higher education as per the NEP 2020 is also on creating industry and society relevant research and innovations culture. Earlier, we were doing research per se for publishing our papers in the best world quality journals, earning tremendous amount of name and fame for Mother India from our publications. But now, here and now, the NEP requires us to focus our attention to industry and society relevant research and innovation culture. Let everything we do in research is audited from the point of view what it creates, what it does to solving some of the pressing problems which our industries have and which our society is facing at the moment. The culture of research and innovation in institutions of higher learning as well as in universities is very, very important. And so is the culture of startups and entrepreneurship on the strength of innovation incubation, technology transfer, patenting of the ideas, and so on. It calls for sensitizing students and faculty with the challenges at hand, both nationally as well as globally, as also to engage them in solving the local and global problems, including some of the mega challenges which are confronting the humanity at large around the world. Challenges like climate change, challenges like solving the water security problem, challenges like tomorrow's food security, challenges like creating a world of plenty of energy, and challenge, monumental challenge of mopping out enormous amount of air, water, and soil pollution which we have created around the world, and also to create a world in which the zero waste production as well as zero waste discharge becomes a reality on the strength of new science and new technology. These are the mega challenges. These are the challenges who else other than the inspired minds of the faculty and the students who come to us in the university would meet. The policy also emphasizes on flexibility and autonomy of learning being the two major pillars of 21st century learning environment. But remember that too much of flexibility and unregulated autonomy also lead to erosion of quality and focus that the students need to develop their competence and caliber. And therefore, we need to be far more cautious in our approach when we implement flexibility and autonomy of learning in our universities and institutions. And this is a challenge for all education administrators in the institutions as well as in the university. It is here the role of education administrators lies to gradually elevate the maturity of learners and carefully mentor them to strengthen their areas of interest so that they become the real change makers in their own lifetime rather than becoming journalists of the kind which you would otherwise create by unregulated autonomy and uncontrolled flexibility. Multidisciplinary and holistic learning is an ancient method used in Indian system of Gurukul education. I can say this with pride because the kind of advancement of science and technology and the layers of human excellence which Indian ancient education has produced from its Gurukuls and the universities of the ancient India created people of great eminence who engaged in science, both fundamental as well as applied, and created layers of technology which till date remain as a mystery and remains as a challenge for us to understand. Even the iron pillar in the premises of the Qutub Minar challenges the modern scientists to understand how do you produce really a quality of iron that will remain smiling without even a trace of rust, despite the fact that this is 2000-year old or more. And I have great privilege in telling you that the iron pillar of India, which you have in the Qutub Minar area, came from the place I was born and brought up, called Vidisha in Madhya Pradesh in central India, where it was uprooted from the Vishnu temple in, in Vidisha and transported to Delhi by Iltutmish way back in 11th century and planted here in the Qutub Minar complex. It still remains as one of the most magnificent marvel of material science, a challenge for the world community to understand. Historical Indian universities like Vikramshila, where Lord Krishna himself went along with Sudama, paying no fees whatsoever, so that the poor Sudama could also study what Lord Krishna was studying in the Sandipani ashram at Ujjain, the ashramas of Dronacharya, not very far from where my university of Amity University currently is at Gurugram, the ashramas of Sage Augusta and Vishwamitra of the ancient times, and the Takshashila and Nalanda of the Ashokan times, and Santiniketan of Guru Rabindranath Ji Thakur. They provided holistic education in a multidisciplinary environment, and that still remains as a marvel for us to achieve in our institutions of higher learning. Education in ancient India was not just for developing capabilities, but well-grounded individuals who would stand to the ethical standards, professional morals, and also competence and caliber unmatched by anyone around the world. They were to be the torchbearers of the rich wealth of knowledge and noble citizens in their society. Great responsibility rested on their shoulders to nurture compassion, harmony, peace, and a society providing justice and liberty. They made no mistake in their life to spend every single breath of their life to nurture and practice these great human values with which they were adorned. Multidisciplinary approach has also been adopted by the world-class universities such as MIT in US, in India, engineering institutions such as IITs, IIITs, IISERs are moving towards more holistic and multidisciplinary education with a strong emphasis on interdisciplinary research and collaborative research and development and innovations. Likewise, the leading private universities like Amity, BITS Pilani, and very many other branches of BITS, VIT, and SRM are also focusing on interdisciplinary research and society relevant innovations. In the post-industrial revolution, our focus has been on industry readiness, on employability of our graduate, and therefore career took precedence over cultivation of knowledge and translation of knowledge into the capabilities. Unfortunately, in our mad rush for industry readiness, we lost our track on what the emphasis on man-making as it was during the ancient times. But we certainly gained a lot otherwise from our focus on industry readiness. We created a world where accelerated growth and development took place. The GDP went on increasing, but also uneven distribution of wealth which we have created. Accelerated exploitation of natural resources have led us to several difficult situations, including the natural calamities and also climate change of the kind which we are currently facing. We degraded the health of the environment beyond repair, and we are paying a heavy price now in the form of coronavirus and also getting the fear of death, because the bad health of environment directly impacts on the health of human beings as well as on the health of all creatures, no matter how small or how large they are. The terror even posing a great threat of massive destruction. because science and technology has fallen in the hands of unscrupulous minds in the world. They have easy access to the latest advancement of science and technology, and often they utilize the power of science and might of technology as weapons of mass destruction. These are some of the monumental challenges which we created in the post-industrial world. Machines started dominating man and even posed a massive threat of job losses as the Industry 4.0 is currently presenting before us. But the new normal has also been created because of our deep plunge which we have taken into the digital age, and we all must rejoice the new age in which we all are today. The info nano-bio-led new sciences and new innovative technologies are emerging rapidly to create a new environment of learning and research and development for new age universities and for the growth of new enterprises as well. The power of mind and the rapid pace of innovations are giving rise to new technology that shall drive the future growth. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, robotics, virtual reality, integrated supply chain management, online services, online and on-demand education, and a life increasingly shifting away from the age-old tenets of a social group to a community of networked people, largely communicating using modern technology, are now a reality. And therefore, the attributes of new age science and technology professionals, as the Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Chattopadhyay has rightly pointed out, they must have the ability to apply the existing knowledge of mathematics, science, and engineering, handling and analyzing large size data, and also analyzing it not only by their own mind, but also by the artificial intelligence, which comes as a great support to ensure that much deeper knowledge is created from the analysis of the data which you have. Ability to conduct live as well as virtual experiments and analyze and interpret results. Ability to optimally design a system, component or process to meet desired need and to assess its impact. I'm emphasizing the word optimally designed here, not just any design, but you need to assess the design to be optimal and assess its impact, not only in terms of productivity and quality of the product which the system produces, but also its impact on environment, its impact on maintainability, its impact on recycle and reuse, and ultimately the penalties as well as bliss it offers to the humanity. Ability to function in multidisciplinary research teams have become now absolutely important. Ability to identify, formulate, and solve complex problems has become a reality. And therefore, attributes of engineering and technology education require understanding of professional and ethics responsibilities, knowledge of human capability and visions for future, and also engineers of the future of 2020 and beyond. The pace of technological innovations will continue to be rapid, the, in fact, most likely to accelerate in future. The world in which technology will be deployed will be intensely globally and interconnected. Social, cultural, and political and economic forces will continue to impact the technology development, but will not be able to herald the growth of technological innovations, as innovations are not government centric, but they are people driven. And because innovations are people driven, innovation infinite would remain as a reality in our own lifetime and beyond. The presence of technology in our everyday lives will be seamless, transparent, and more significant than ever before. And therefore, no escape from being technology and to savvy and to be innovative. I do not know how many of you know, but the former ambassador of United States of America here in India, the leading economist of the world, John Kenneth Galbraith, way back in 1970s, have written a book called The Age of Uncertainty. At that time, I was doing my PhD at University of Birmingham. I picked up this book and I said, "What are you talking about? There is no age of uncertainty." Soon came the energy crisis, and we all realized that we have landed into the age of uncertainty. And today, the age of uncertainty has rightly descended. It has truly arrived. The new realities with Peter Drucker, the great management guru, has talked about at the start of the 21st century when the internet was invented, have now become a reality. He said at that time that conventional systems of doing business are rapidly disappearing. E-commerce, online shopping, e-ticketing, e-banking, e-journals, e-books, e-learning are driving away the conventional systems. Peter Drucker was absolutely right way back in 1999, the year in which I became the vice chancellor for the first time, when he said that 30 years from now, the big university campuses will be relics. Universities would not survive. He meant brick and mortar universities would not survive. It is as large a challenge as when we first got the printed book. This he wrote at the advent of internet. Now we see that this great prophecy of the great management guru is becoming a reality. Likewise, the triple IT voiced its warn all of us about engineering of tomorrow, which will be smart, which will be intelligent, which will be knowledge driven, which will be data driven, which will be creating, making impossible possible on the strength of the power of science and its integration for development of technology. New intelligent and smart material, tailor-made materials, nano-structured material, they all have become now a reality. New energy resources have now become very, very important, and tremendous amount of scientific effort is being invested in that direction. We are looking at green hydrogen as a future. We are looking at EVs as the new modern ways of mobility on roads, and we are looking in a big way on solar power, making it cheaper than the coal-powered plant. In for nano-bio revolution, ushering a new industrial revolution. Industry 4.0 today, Industry 5.0 tomorrow, and who knows, by the time I disappear to God, it would be Industry 10.0, whereby the power of mind and the thoughts would be driving the machines and systems and creating business at the speed of thought of the kind which the Bill Gates has talked about way back in 1998. He wrote a book, Business at the Speed of Thought. It was, and I picked it up while I was going to join as a vice chancellor. I thought, what the hell it means. At that time, it was difficult for anybody to understand what the speed of thought and the business transacted would be. But today you see the speed of transaction of data and information and the speed with which we are transacting our activities has now given us conviction that we are moving towards what our sages and seers were telling us during the Ramayana and Mahabharata time, whereby much of the work was done at the speed of thought without anybody knowing what physical activity is happening. And it is that kind of thing which is very, very important. Disruption shall become the name of the game here and now. 3D printing has already rapidly emerged as a major threat to conventional manufacturing systems. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and automation making it big for fourth industrial revolution. Print media is already under severe pressure of social media and electronic resources. Banking, marketing, shopping services all being greatly impacted. And mind-to-mind communication and Internet of everything shall pave the way for business at the speed of thought from times to come hereafter. Engineering education tomorrow in the therefore must now understand that universities alone shall not be able to deliver education. They should work in collaborative partnership with the industries and corporate, not only here in India, but around the world. Learning by doing and hands-on experience shall create industry-ready skills. Synergy between education and research has become a must now. Institutions and university campuses shall have technology incubation, manage business incubators, and patent facilitating unit. University research shall largely become solution research. Academic integrity, research integrity, and professional ethics shall be non-negotiable. Enterprising minds of faculty and students shall accelerate creation of IPR and wealth creation. Startups, enterprise development, and product innovation shall become a major phenomenon in institutions and universities of tomorrow. Digital technology shall promote and good governance and seamless integration of on-campus and off-campus education. The signs of change are already emerging. Students are more technology savvy, often more than the teachers. Research and innovation culture has begun to percolate right down to undergraduate level. When I talked about it in 2004 in my Delhi College of Engineering, people were saying, how can you bring undergraduate research to undergraduate level? I was telling that research is not the monopoly of PhD scholars. Today, we all understand the importance of research at all levels, from school to the university, and undergraduates are making a big contribution to this. Culture of startups is making a great headway in our country. Enterprising minds of students and faculty are shaping the landscape of engineering education. The Global Innovation Index is making us all feel happy because every year our ranking is going up. Now we stand at 48. Who knows, tomorrow we will be in the top 10 also. But the point you all must note that despite a nation of 17% population of the world, our share of GDP is still 3.2% or so, compared to so high about 18 or 19%, 15% coming from China and 6% coming from Japan. If China has 17 or 18% of the world population making contribution of 15% of world GDP, what prevents India to look at tomorrow's India, where 17% population of the world here in India makes its GDP go from 3.2% to something like 15 or 16% tomorrow. That's the kind of charter to which we require acceleration of interdisciplinary research and innovations in our universities of higher learning. This is the age of innovation and digital transformation. Innovation is power to create and also power to cause disruption. Disruption prompts further innovations, and therefore innovations and disruption will go hand in hand, and you require continuous innovation to ensure that you create obsolescence of what is not needed and create new layers of technology that are needed for a blissful society. You have to understand that science and technology drivers for future economic activities and national development would include nanoscience and technology impacting all sectors of economic and industrial growth. They are expected to grow to 125 billion US dollars by 2024. Info nano bio revolution is around the corner, impacting agriculture, biochemical, pharmaceutical, energy and environment technology, health informatics, genetic engineering, stem cell technology, immunology, science of vaccines and technology, herbal and natural medicines, food and nutrition sciences, and above all, gaming and entertainment shall drive tomorrow's socio-economic development. The recent report of IBM on Science and Technology Outlook of 2021 advocates for urgency of science, which means you need more science, more and more scientific methods by which you are able to produce solutions to the world's most urgent challenges. Accelerating and scaling discovery is another emphasis of the Science and Technology Outlook of 2021. You need to go fast, you need to do this at a speed, and you need to cause what it has been called an accelerated discovery. COVID-19 vaccine is one such example. And tomorrow, from data-driven to AI-driven scientific decision-making systems, it would make it possible to have accelerating and scaling discovery. Urgency of intelligent infrastructure for accelerating scientific discovery has been mandated. And therefore, in our universities and institutions of higher learning, including IIT, IIIT, universities of technology and government and private universities and colleges, we must now understand the importance of intelligent infrastructure for accelerating scientific discovery and technology transformation. Communities of discovery we need to create where like-minded people working in the similar areas are put together as a team, working together for accelerating and scaling discovery, achieving unprecedented speed, scale, and automation. A vision and roadmap that examines implications of these advances for the future of climate, future of health, and future of work, and maximize the beneficial impact of investment in science and technology are some of the mandates which we have before us for accelerating innovations and accelerating R&D in our institutions of higher learning. Thus, we need more and more robust science and technology ecosystem to drive accelerated growth and development for science and technology advancement and solution research in India. I am hammering this word solution research repeatedly because research not per se for publication, but for solving the pressing problems which we have on our doorstep, as well as the problems that we shall confront in future, should really be the focus, and the research should become solution research more and more. A more balanced approach to what science and technology can do, both for urban as well as rural India, in my view, is very, very important. We need to go rural. We need to go rural with high-tech minds and scientific solutions. Earlier, we were saying that rural India requires appropriate technology. Today, I can say with conviction and confidence that rural India requires high-tech minds of people who study in IIT, triple ITs, in institutions of repute, in government and private institutions, and let them go back to rural. Let them go rural with high-tech minds and scientific solutions to maximize the benefits of science and technology development, to achieve the dream of Government of India of inclusive growth and development in a country like ours. This cannot happen without going rural with high-tech minds and with the scientific solutions of the kind that are required to create both the layers of prosperity as well as create the bliss of heavens in our rural area, as well as to create millions and millions of jobs for our countrymen who live in these rural outfits, whose children come to the cities and urban places but never return. I think there would be a great emphasis to ensure that the high-tech intellectuals and scientific solution mind go back to rural. And this way we will be solving the problem of exodus that were taking place earlier from the rural areas to the cities and urban areas, creating urban slums here in our country. I think that's something which we need to take forward. Science for society, science for national development have to be the mantras for new science and technology policy for India. And NEP 2020, as well as the new science and technology and innovation policy for India, must go hand in hand to ensure that science and technology remain on the side of the people and are utilized through solution research for national development. Both science and technology in the digital age have to be more concerned about the interest of man as well as interest of mother nature cannot be overemphasized. Security, safety, and integrity of scientific knowledge is to be given its due importance now that access to knowledge is for one and all around the world. Scientific and technological innovations, new product development have emerged as the driving force for nation's socio-economic progress. The universities and higher education institutions are well advised to accelerate solution research and innovation and maximize their focus on outcome-based R&D and innovations, IPR and new product development. This is a mandate for us in the universities and also for institutions around the country and for that region around the world. We need 21st century transformative leadership in higher education, including higher and technical education here. Business as usual would not do. We need breakthrough leadership, both at the institution level as well as at the level of the departments, as well as at the level of our teachers, the inspired minds who join us. We need to focus on employability, industry readiness, and future research readiness. Future research readiness is something we need to begin to talk now that we have entered into the age of uncertainty. The speed leadership we require that promotes integration of education and research, promotes interdisciplinary education and research, and builds islands of excellence for solution research in the institution. I thought, let me share with you some of the best practices which we have implemented at university here, Amity University, Haryana. A vibrant culture of research and innovation from undergraduate level onward is a reality in our university. A strong industry integration is something which we have a focused area in a university like ours. Global Connect, consortia research collaboration, not merely signing MOUs, but ensuring that the like-minded people on either side work and create consortia for research collaboration and engage in solving some of the mega challenges which we have before us. World-class research infrastructure is absolutely necessary. As I said, the smart and intelligent science and technology infrastructure is a necessary condition today. Research-driven faculty who have a keen desire to teach as well as to engage relentlessly in the pursuit of research excellence is something which is required in our university, and we are constantly driving this agenda. Culture of innovation right from UG levels upward. Directorate of Research and Innovation we have set up in our university. Not many universities have the Directorate of Research and Innovation. Directorate of Outcome are unheard of in the universities and colleges. MIT is known for its focus on outcome. Interdisciplinary research clusters are part of our educational and research philosophy to cause integration of education with research and to foster interdisciplinary research and innovation. Accelerated patenting and focus on high quality research publication is something which is a mandate for each one of us, no matter at what level of hierarchy we are in the university. We have set up central instrumentation research facility, a 7 crore worth of investment on high-tech equipment from Amity funds. We have also, this has resulted into great resource mobilization for research and development. We have 68 funded projects of 31 crores, 166 patent filed, 50 patents already published, 343 book chapters contributed by our faculty, though we are only a 10-year-old institution. Conference proceedings 924, research papers published 3,340, citations and cumulative impact factor going to 6,043, and funding agencies all across from government as well as from European Union and also for consortia research is a reality, including funding coming from great many advanced countries of the world. High impact research publications are a reality. Some of the examples I'm just showing you, Dr. Arun Kumar Sharma, publishing in Material Horizons with impact factor 13.2, Jayani Dasgupta, a champion of high impact publication, with 12.8 impact factor. Ravi Dutt Sharma, my data analytics man, has published at 12.8. Amit Kumar Pandey, 11.09. Dr. Deepa Shubha, impact factor of 8.8. Amit Kumar Pandey, again 7.3. Some of our research publications are figuring on the front page of leading research journals. And this is something, a great recognition of the scientific work of my people. For example, a publication here, Global Challenges, showing you dried trees on the top and the green at the bottom. With the help of nanoparticles, you can resurrect the life of a dead tree. And if that can happen to a tree tomorrow, a dead body, a human being can also be resurrected back to life by efforts of nanoscience, which I've called the nanoscience of God. So a lot of these publications figuring on the front page, in fact, of the leading research journals, a testimony of the high quality of research which we are carrying out. Our patents are rising every year, and this is a focused area of attention at our university. Grants flowing for infrastructure research development from DST, DBT, and other bodies. We have got so many patents, including some of the great inventions in built multidisciplinary education, multidisciplinary research and innovation leading to filing of patents in areas that matter. Here is a fabric with self-cleaning property, which is antifungal, anti-dust, as well as antimicrobial property, clothing of the kind which goddess Sita was presented by Sati Ansuya at Chitrakoot Ashram in my home state of Madhya Pradesh during the Ramayana time, which she could wear for 14 years without the need for dry cleaning, without the fear of being impacted by the deadly viruses in the jungle, nor she could be bitten by any insect, because the fabric itself was antifungal, antimicrobial, with having self-cleaning property. It is this kind of patent which my people from biosciences as well as nanosciences and also chemistry and physics together have worked out and patented. Development of multi-layered bulk nanostructured material for batteries for tomorrow, biodegradable tape, a method for identification of receptors for androgen signaling, and multi-consortia projects now got 4 projects which are multi-consortia, where institutions from within the country as well as outside are working together and creating layers of science and engaging into mega challenges. This is a phenomenon now which is quite visible in my university, and I'm truly proud of these consortia projects involving IITs, Institution of Science, and also the Advanced Center of Science and Technology at Bangalore, and also PGI Chandigarh, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, all working together to push the frontiers of knowledge beyond the conceivable limit. DBT Builder project of 3 crore has come in from the Department of Biotechnology, Skill Vigyan Department of Biotechnology project has already come in here. Several centers of excellence, including Dr. Kiran Majumdar Shah Center for Affordable Innovation, Amity G Healthcare Center of Excellence, Ayush Amity Herbal Garden and Amity Center for Drug Design, Drug Discovery, Nobel Laureate Kailash Satyarthi Center for Child Rights, Nobel Laureate Yunish Center for Social Business Center, and Amity Center for Excellence in Indic and Sanskrit Studies are among some of the top class centers of excellence in science and technology and also for service to humanity which have been set up. We are also causing interdisciplinary research and accelerating it by establishing interdisciplinary research clusters. I thought that this is something very important for institutions of higher learning to put people of like-minded from different institutions and give them the challenge of driving the agenda of a research cluster. We have identified 12 such research clusters in our university, including cancer research, lipidomics, data science and computational biology, infectious disease, research cluster on nanoscience and technology, research cluster on robotics, artificial intelligence and machine. And for each of this cluster, we are monitoring how many publications, how many patents, how many research projects submitted, how many research projects obtained, how many technology transfer that had taken place. And by driving this agenda of outcome, each of these research clusters are accelerating research and innovations in my university. Research cluster for drug discovery and drug design from my Institute of Pharmacy, overlooking it into other like-minded people from chemistry and biochemistry and others. Research cluster in environmental science and human health, a truly interdisciplinary research cluster driving the agenda of accelerated research and development, technology transfer becoming a reality, uh, technology transfer for wastewater treatment using nanoscience and technology implemented, patent has been filed, nanotechnology, nanoparticle based N5 masks have been produced and technology transfer has taken place. Amity incubator is working, giving rise to several startups. I also did the same thing while I was at DTU and DCE, where biodiesel research made a great headway. We designed and developed new biodiesel reactors, which attracted the attention of the whole of the world, including the Yanmar of Japan, who came to DTU for consultancy on development of pure biodiesel generators. And also, all these have been designed and developed by innovative minds of faculty and students. We designed and developed the first unmanned aerial vehicle of India way back in 2006 and got the most innovative design award at Georgia in the international competition of what they call autonomous vehicle international. That was something which is remarkable for the student community to put together a vehicle like this, which is made in carbon fiber at that time with a small baby vehicle and a mother vehicle together going up, and the baby vehicle performing the mission and coming back to Earth. So this kind of design was most mesmerizing and received the most innovative design award in the world competition. The first hybrid car of India in 2005 was designed and developed by the young inspired mind of students in the black t-shirt which you see here. Honorable Chief Minister was absolutely delighted to flag it off from a residence. It looks like as if a car is produced by the industry, but this is all can be done by the student inspired minds with the support of enlightened faculty and driven by the top management. Miracles of this kind possible. The super mileage vehicle got the most innovative design award in Michigan. Water submarine got the most innovative design award in San Diego. Solar car went to Australia. MOU with Samsung became a reality on mobile technology. MOU with the Delhi Metro became a reality for development of indigenous technology for Delhi Metro. We signed a MOU with Lockheed Martin for development of new age UAVs for urban application that give us great advantage. We rose to the top 3 positions in the world in world competition. We designed the unmanned aerial vehicle, made it flight worthy, which was unveiled by the chief of DRDO, Dr. Saraswat, in 2012. Ultimately, we designed and developed a solar car that was flagged up by the President of India from the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Efforts like these are not ordinary efforts, but all this could be possible by driving the agenda of interdisciplinary research and innovations in institutions of higher learning, which DTU was. This success story, of course, is well known and produced great benefit for DTU. We did the same thing here in Amity University, Haryana, driven by the inspired minds of the faculty and the visionary guidance of our Honorable Founder President and our Honorable Chancellor himself is a great human being who studied in Pennsylvania from the Wharton College of Education and driving the agenda of inspiring people for innovation and research and development. And the aircraft which we designed, developed, patented remains as one of the most marvelous piece where the propellers are hidden inside the delta wings and they are gyroscopically mounted so that they take the direction in which you want to go and land you vertically. The 3D printing machine, several other innovations which we made. This is what we achieved even during the COVID times. 741 research papers published by our faculty in journals of repute, 96 book chapters contributed, 18 projects granted of 12.5 crores worth of rupees during the COVID time itself. 120 other projects submitted, patent filed 49, another 10 projects. And I'm showing you all this just because it would be important for us to understand that acceleration of research and development and innovation institutions of higher learning requires new emphasis on putting interdisciplinary research and driving the agenda of accelerated growth and development along the directions in which the nation and the world requires. And no wonder, because of all this, Amity emerged as the India top-ranked private university, 1,300 plus patents, 700 plus 50 R&D projects, global brand, leadership for academic R&D excellence made a big difference, and global campuses of Amity around the world are also making a great impact. Let me conclude because the time is now more or less over. My concluding remarks are that higher and technical education institutions and universities require a breakthrough mind, breakthrough leadership with a speed leadership quality. What it really means that you and I are here for a limited time, and we need to now act in a manner that we cause major breakthroughs, and that too with a speed leadership, which means what can be done in 5 years must be done in 1 year or even less than 1 year. So we are in a time today, this is possible. This applies for institutional development. This applies for readiness of infrastructure. This applies for project management, for R&D, and this applies for causing innovations in plenty. Leadership that has a vision to transform the institution with high employability, industry and society relevant solutions research, and focus on future readiness. Accelerate R&D and scientific discovery, and create intelligent and smart research infrastructure in the university and institution is something which is required. Foster interdisciplinary research, solution R&D, innovation and new product development. Now this should be the buzzword in every institution of higher learning. Promote national and international collaboration, create communities of consortia research and development, engage institution, science and technology community in accelerated R&D and research that matter. Leadership that transform the institutions into factories of innovation, factories of startups and factories of new enterprises. This is what I want to see to happen through the implementation of NEP 2020. Let people say that universities and institutions in India are factories of innovation. They are factories of startups. They are factories of new enterprises. Besides producing men and people of competence and caliber and character that will manage not only the world today, but the world tomorrow. Make no mistake that institutional leadership matters a lot in this respect, and so does the leadership at every level in the education and research environment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I thought I must say at a time when we are looking at how to cause the transformation of the vision of National Education Policy, NEP 2020, from its vision to action, and cause innovations in plenty, make India truly a country of India, innovation infinite, and to cause accelerated growth and development of interdisciplinary research and innovation coming from our university campuses and campuses of institutions of higher learning. I wish to thank you, Honorable Director, Dr. Shantanu Chattopadhyay, to my friend, Dr. Muruganathan, sir, to very distinguished people who are connected to this webinar, including Dr. Surappaji, the former Vice Chancellor, sir, and several other principals and directors of the institutions, heads of the institutions, and my very dear inspired student community. I want to give you a hope that tomorrow's India would be 10 times brighter and better than the India in which we are living today. But the responsibility to create that India is not on the government. It rests on our shoulders in institutions and universities, because education creates the future, and that future we must create with conviction and with commitment. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience hearing, and I'm open to any questions which you may have to ask from me. Thank you. Thank you so much indeed. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir, for your inspired talk for the past 60 minutes. In fact, no participants left from this particular webinar. There are some questions raised by the participants. I think Joshi, can you unmute and ask question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please.
Hello. Good morning, sir.
Very good morning to you.
Sir, it was really a nice lecture and a great information you shared on NEP 2020.
Sure.
So Myself, Dr. Vipin Joshi. I'm working with Symbiosis International Deemed University, Pune.
Very
And
good.
my department is academics. And actually, we are working on implementation of this NEP 2020 in our university. Sir, my question is, multidisciplinarity is a very important aspect of this NEP 2020.
Yes.
So in future, we need to measure this the degree of the multidisciplinarity in the program. So what could be the key indicators to measure the multidisciplinarity in a specific program?
Very good question, because really speaking, much of the misunderstanding, in my opinion, of NEP is on this word multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary.
Yes, sir.
It does not mean that engineers would study every damn thing in the world and become engineers, or for that reason, the people pursuing a course in English would study all engineering and science and all you have in the name of life science and medical science. That's not interdisciplinary. What interdisciplinary means, developing a capabilities of working in an interdisciplinary team tomorrow. For example, if I'm designing a car for tomorrow's India, which will be electrical vehicle, for example, I need to understand how to create that human comfort and convenience and happiness when you drive a car or when you are riding a car, apart from its technological and scientific aspects. And that is where whole lot of human engineering would be required. And I need to then understand that during driving from Delhi to Bombay, which I would do sometime if the expressway of India would become so good, then I need to really also ensure that I remain without stresses during this period. So this is where interdisciplinariness comes in. Interdisciplinary education creates you an intense desire and urge and inclination to understand the dimensions beyond your own discipline. But it does not mean that you will be crowding the curriculum and destroying the core competence of the discipline. I had privilege of visiting your your university.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
University while I was the president of AIU, and your focus on internationalization at home at that time inspired me to think that interdisciplinariness has to be seen in terms of creating those appreciation, understanding, a resolve, and a commitment to pursue our own discipline in combination with the, for example, the ceiling fan on my head is not just electrical engineering. Though Dr. Murugesan, it was taught by electrical engineers because there is a motor inside and there is a whole lot of other electronic and electrical devices. But what they forget that this also has aerodynamics, this has material science, this has a whole lot of mechanical engineering, so that the vibration and noise coming from the bearing do not really create problems. And it has a whole lot of safety features which are included, including actually how the air is distributed in this room where I'm sitting. So really speaking, this is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary thing. Earlier we were thinking mechanical for mechanical, electrical for electrical, electrical fellow learn electrical engineering, and then both of them scratch their head because electrical require a lot of mechanical, electronics and aeronautics and whatnot. So I think in the days to come now, multidisciplinariness has to be seen from that angle in my view.
Thank you, sir. One question from Dr. Kiran. A lot of institutions or even faculty members may understand the need of include innovations ethics in the curriculum. However, there is no cost of non-compliance, such as ranking criteria or weightages that truly reflect ground reality, that motivates them to implement it in the true spirit. What can institutions and faculty members do in this situation?
He singularly accuses America, right, for Pakistan.
Let me answer to what Dr. Murugesan has said. I think the question is very important. How do I incentivize and how do I inspire and motivate my faculty as well as student community to engage in innovation? Each institution should have a policy for research and innovations in my view. How do you incentivize? How do you really keep the tempo and interest in innovations as high? I know people in our country, and we have to change this mindset. We usually do not appreciate the ideas right in the beginning, but we appreciate when they become a reality. I should not boost it. 6 months ago, I was telling my friends here, develop a kind of a device like this, which I always keep in my pocket, called actually what you call inhaler. So this ensures that I don't get asthma. Now, if you develop something like this for corona, for example, and just blow it in your mouth, all the corona residents inside your mouth would run away or die. Same thing you could do with a nasal spray in your nose, and you would have been saved from the disaster of the kind that's happening. People did not take me seriously. Now today I find that the new vaccine which they are developing is along the direction of nasal spray. We have to create really an environment by which the ideas are appreciated, pursued, and rewarded by the institution and by the community, and India would be a great India that way. I've seen, for example, visiting America once in 1986, one of my professor from IIT Delhi settled in America. His entire drawing room was full of certificate. I said, you did much better than I am doing at IIT. He said, no, sir, all these certificates belong to my little child, who is now in class 7th. I said, what? And these certificates were basically for the innovation coming from a primary students. One of the certificates was even signed by the President of America. And that fellow was labeled as great innovator. So that's the kind of appreciation and support that is expected for people who have ideas, who transform ideas into innovation. I think India is gradually rising into that direction, but lot more appreciation, lot more incentives, lot more support is required at the institutional level. When I was Vice Chancellor of DTU, I created an enormous amount of support for innovation. These cars would require 20 lakhs of rupees to be sanctioned by the head of the institution. Otherwise, Chancellor might have said, I can't fund you 20 lakhs. I said, I'll give you 22 lakhs even. Go and make it and create that esteem for India and also make a big impact. We need to come out with kind of support which is required. I did it, of course, not because of government funding, but from the student funding which I had accumulated over a period of 60 years at my institution when it was Delhi College of Engineering. I put that into a corpus fund, and the interest of that corpus fund was almost like 1 crore of rupees each year. I could then support all the innovations which I require. That's the kind of innovative ideas of funding and support. Which today, of course, venture capitalism is much better compared to what it was in 2005. I'm telling you all this because the young minds require tremendous amount of appreciation. I keep my door open so that the young people can come and talk to the Vice Chancellor and share their ideas. I offer them a cup of tea and ask them to take a photograph. They feel elevated that, look, my idea has been given a patient's hearing even by the top man in the university. This is what exactly needs to be done. You all can do it, I'm pretty sure, and tomorrow's India requires that to happen.
Thank you, sir. One more question we can take. Dr. Rajendra, can you ask question directly?
Yes. Thank you, sir. It was a very valuable lecture, valuable session with Dr. Sharma.
Sir.
It has been a pleasure to listen to you. I work in the after 30 years of experience in management in pharma and fast-moving drugs and other. Last 5 years, I am working in the area of business value development because the world is enough of products now at present. It has become an environmental hazard. What the world is now looking for is business value addition on each of the things. Now India is a vast country, and the future of innovations, according to some findings, are going to come from rural areas and from unknown sectors, like all which we see in various research journals and other things. So the challenge will be how to harness the research in the rural area without any equipments. We have developed a matrix of simple questions and simple technology of asking the questions and the right questions, and then going on investigation and invigilation on these areas. This is we called as business value development, and this is also very suitable for finding out the value pillars and value drivers of individual as well as the small and medium enterprises. And this increases the sustainability of the organizations and of the small industry, because we have largest number of startups, yes, but the sustainability of startup is also a challenge. So the sustainability of startup can be increased by business value development technology. Thank you. And I just wanted to introduce this.
Very important area, business value development as well as business process re-engineering and robotic process engineering. These are now the buzzword. But looking at your context of the rural area, for a very long time, we have been looking at rural area with great opportunity. We have been investing in rural area in Manrega and several other schemes. I have watched this happening before my own eyes. I came to India in 1978 from Birmingham. There was a big band actually going around that we'll develop rural India, but we could not. Because really speaking, rural India cannot be developed merely by giving the incentives or giving free wage. It can be developed, as I said, when we go rural with high-tech mind and with scientific solutions and create rural enterprises, then we create mass entrepreneurship. Just think of mass entrepreneurship in energy in rural area. Just think of mass entrepreneurship in water technology in rural area. Just think of mass entrepreneurship in the agri-tech area. Just think of mass entrepreneurship in rural area in the food processing industry. Just think of mass mass entrepreneurship in rural area on the strength of innovative minds, creating that vital connect between the rural produce and the new market which we are creating in India and around the world. But it requires the IIT graduates, NIT graduates, triple IT graduates, graduates from high profile universities like mine and yours to go into the rural area. We were rushing toward the cities earlier. Of course, we developed great cities, but forgive me to say that we also created great slums in these great cities, and much of the poverty which was earlier in the rural area was shifted to city areas. So I think we need to reverse this to happen. This will solve several problems together. It will reduce the congestion in the cities, will reduce the environmental pollution in cities, will create the bliss of heavens in the rural area, create employment in plenty in rural area, and mass entrepreneurship, the dream which the founding fathers of this great country at the time of independence had, could become a reality. If you like, Dr. Murugesan, I'll share with you my paper on mass entrepreneurship, which I wrote when they were talking of third industrial revolution to be assured in India on the strength of energy entrepreneurship, on water entrepreneurship, and massive entrepreneurship in road we could make in food and agriculture sector. I personally believe that the time for third industrial revolution alongside with industry 4.0 has come now, that we are looking at rural area as a great opportunity to make inroads of high tech, high technology and high science and scientific solutions for creating tremendous amount of strength in rural economy. My own judgment is that you will create India where rural people will be more prosperous than people in the urban areas. They will be There would be more rich people in rural areas than in the urban areas. That time can be created, but we have to move the focus of attention, as I said, with scientific minds, scientific solutions and high-tech minds going rural. That's the buzzword, and that should be the basis on which the future policy and programs for inclusive development of India must be required. And universities and institutions have a great role to play to create such like minds which will have the ability to apply their ideas for causing mass entrepreneurship in the rural areas, in the area of energy, environment, water, food technology, agri-technology, high-tech agri-tech. It's happening already, but it's happening in a small number at the moment. Maybe tomorrow there would be a real revolution coming, and you will find that the rural areas will rise to this great level of productivity and contributing to national economy. Maybe India's economy will rise not only to 5 trillion, as Honorable Prime Minister has said, you could even become a 15 trillion economy if you really harness the potential of rural entrepreneurship, which you already have with. So this is something which is very important. I think in each one of our universities, we need to pay a lot of attention to how these high-tech mind can be aligned toward the needs of energy, environment, water, food, agriculture, and other areas which are so very important for the well-being of humanity. Besides, of course, the high-tech areas where artificial intelligence and machine learning, etc., will make not only the supply chain, but also the modern manufacturing system to come in. That's important. But what is important is to take the AI, machine learning, your robotics, as well as your understanding of higher technology to rural areas and see how best you can go about creating those layers of prosperity. This is something which triple IITs can now do much better than what IITs have done. And one of the reasons for setting up of the triple IITs is to understand what information technology can do now to cause impossible, to make impossible possible, which earlier in our effort of technology development we could not achieve. So I think the time of triple IT is playing a much bigger role in the national arena of development has arrived now. Let you go rural with high-tech mind and with scientific solutions and create that vital difference that is required.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a wonderful session. Even if you are speaking 24 hours, you will come finally to the favor of human relation and human engineering. Most of us knows well. Since the time is very less, I invite Dr. Sanjay Chatterjee to give a vote of thanks. Over to Sanjay Chatterjee.
Thank you so much indeed. I would have, as Dr. Murugesan knows, I can continue talking to you whole day without asking for a lunch or a glass of water, but that's not what is required. I think important point at the moment is to focus our attention to how best each of our institution and university can translate the vision of NEP 2020 into actions that would go beyond what NEP might have even thought of. And that is where I think that we all need to commit ourselves for creating a brighter future on the strength of education that creates future for the country. Thank you so much indeed. Very kind of. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. A very good morning to all of you. On behalf of the organizing committee of the national webinar on NEP 2020, Vision to Action, and the entire fraternity of IIIT Kalani, first of all, my sincere thanks to the volunteers, Dr. Muruganantham Purnusamy, Dr. Madhumita Sengupta, and others for making this event a great success. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend my heartful vote of thanks to our chief guest, Professor Pratim B. Sharma, founder VC, DTU, and GTU, sorry, former professor IIT Delhi and VC of Amity University, Gurgaon, for delivering such a motivational talk and making this event a great success. Today, we had the opportunity to hear your thoughts, sir, and this is definitely encouraging us in our future events. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and helped us understand this new education 2020 and how it can be implemented in real life. During the event, we also saw there are so many positive feedbacks came from regarding this talk. I would now thank all the directors and deans of various institutes participating in the event from their busy schedule. Dr. Surappa from Anna University and Dr. Munivanna K, Dr. B. Maji, Dr. Premanvati, Rakesh,
Difficult to pronounce.
Dr. B. Yeah, so this list is very large. I thank all other 195 participants for joining from different parts of India. Hope this is helpful to all. Lastly, we thank our director, sir, Professor Shantanu Chattopadhyay, for motivating us to organize this event. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Sharma again. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much indeed. My great privilege and honor once again. Thank you all. And I can see on the chat board, you all felt more or less happy with the webinar delivered. And I wish to connect to you. You have my contact details, and also Dr. Murugesan would connect wherever required. And I'm always available to you because I believe that we all need to now, with great enthusiasm, interest, and conviction, work so that our nation becomes one of the tallest nations in the world that we all deserve, because our founding fathers of this great civilization have reported tremendous amount of faith in the wisdom of our people. So thank you so much indeed for your kindness, for this opportunity. If you like, Dr. Murugesan, ask everybody to switch on their videos and take a group photograph if possible.
Yes, please. All participants, can you open your camera so that we can have a photograph?
Go in a gallery view so that you all are
Yes,
visible. You all must be looking very, very bright faces, despite the fact that we all are having tremendous amount of fear and pressure of pandemic. And I can see all the smiling faces, which means that we are not scared. We will create a better future and brighter future for the humanity. Thank you, Principal BBIT, sir. I can see you, sir, smiling so well, and all other participants. Click it from one frame to another. Dr. Murugesan, you are good at that.
Yes, sir. I am doing.
I can see the second frame. I can see a lot of young faces. Very good. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. So many people, really. Everybody is so good. Some of very, very nice. So nice. A lot of people, including some of my deans, including Dr. Uday Narayan Singh, the Sahitya Academy awardee. In fact, listening to me, he's from the humanities, and and language science area, which is inspiring me to think that language is not just an art, but also a science and technology at our university. I'm so happy about you, Dr. Udainaran Singh ji, and several others, youngsters. Good heavens, so many of you. Thank you so much. God bless you all. God bless you all. Let you all make a great
Yes, sir.
future for yourself and to the world community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be logging off now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Ilay Baramal, sir.
Thank you so much, Director, sir. Dr. Shantanu we have very high hopes from a person like you, comparatively enthusiastic and young at this age, make the impossible possible, move tremendous amount of high-tech mind to rural areas and create that bliss of heavens in the rural areas and say that rural areas can do wonders compared to what the urban people have done. This is exactly the promise reposed to all our great institutions. People like you who have been in great institutions earlier have a great opportunity and I'm sure commitment. And thank you so much once again. Namaskar. Namaskar.
Sure, sir. We'll try our best. Thank you very much for the inspiration.
God bless you and God make your dream come true, sir. With speed leadership, with breakthrough leadership, because the time of a director is limited to 5 years. And in 5 years, you need to create 50 years impact. And that is a speed leadership, actually. Up to next 50 years, let people say that there was a director called Dr. Shantanu Chattopadhyay, and we were so excited and we did this, we remember this. God bless you, sir. My very best wishes to you and to your highly learned faculty and student community. Thank you all once again. Namaskar.